You won't find a single review on YouTube regarding this 6x8 Stirling utility trailer until now. All right guys, I'm interrupting this video, and yes, I am filming this at the end because in the process of making this video, I discovered something, honestly, in my opinion, that's pretty troubling. And if Stirling, if you're watching this, I need you to go to towards the end. Watch the whole video, but go towards the end because there's something that you have to help me with. But honestly, here's my hope. My hope is that some one of you watching will know the answer to this question, because for me, it is one of the pillar items as to why I got this trailer versus that 5x8 steel mesh one that I had that went up in the fire. With that, watch the video, get to the end, then I'll explain later. Until now. This is the brand new Stirling 6x8 utility trailer from Tractor Supply, and today I'm going to give you the first real look at it. We'll cover the specs, test it out real world loads, compare it against the classic 5x8 steel mesh trailer, which is the one that I originally had, and we'll break down who this trailer is actually for. Now guys, I want to back up just a little bit. Why? Because just recently we sustained a fire. There was a fire here in our back area, and obviously you can see that I'm coming from Scorched Earth, USA. But this whole area burned, setting my original 5x8 steel mesh trailer on fire. And that caused me to have to then go to Tractor Supply. I was going to replace it, and then that's what this thing I saw. I originally bought my 5x8 trailer from Tractor Supply. One of the features that I love the most is that it was a perfect size for hauling my four-wheeler. I'd use it to get the ATV out to the land, and then once I was there, I would actually hook up the trailer to the back of my four-wheeler to handle landscaping and basically material runs. The setup for me honestly was just perfect. So when I went back to Tractor Supply, my plan was simple. Grab another 5x8 and call it good. But I had about 45 minutes before they were closing, and so I walked on the lot, and then I saw this trailer. It was actually so new that when we went to pull it up in the system, they actually didn't even register it. It was fresh off the line, barely any information on it. I obviously went to YouTube to see if I could find any reviews as of yet, and nothing. No walkthroughs, no tests. So I passed on buying it that night, but I went home, I dug into the specs, and I did my research. And today, I want to share all of that with you so that if you're considering this trailer or the 5x8 mesh one, you'll have information that I wish I had when I started this process. Now, the first thing that you want to take note of is just going to be the deck size, right? You've got the Galvalume or the Stirling trailer that has 6 feet wide by 8 feet, whereas the metal mesh one actually is 5x9. And like Brother Honey Badger says, you're never going to balk with having an extra foot worth of load capacity. So I think that's kind of a no-brainer right there. One of the other things that was at least new to me was the Galvalume, as they call it. But what that is basically the Galvalume steel construction is lighter and more rust resistant, right? So this Stirling trailer uses the Galvalume, right? That's the steel that's coated with aluminum and zinc, which makes it a lot more rust resistant and durable. So in comparison, right, the 5x9 mesh trailer that I used before is just steel with a powder coated finish, right? Now that coating looks good at first, but it oftentimes was chipping off, it was scratching, and then of course you're exposed. Rust that's when it can creep in pretty fast. Also, a couple things worth pointing out is that the fold down rear gate plus a removable front panel on the Stirling trailer, in my opinion, is pretty awesome. So that front gate part will actually flip down. That's going to give you an additional 9 inches worth of length. And then if you're not hauling anything at all, well, the Stirling trailer actually allows the gate to fold into the deck as opposed to leaving it in an upright position. And because if you know anything about that steel mesh, when you're pulling something, that is like a sail in the back. You definitely can feel that, if you will. Now, as far as empty weight, I'm going to be honest, I found some controversial, or meaning I did find some consistent stuff. But when I look at the website on Tractor Supply, basically the Stirling is 450, and they list the metal mesh as being 500. So it's a 50-pound savings. However, there's another place where it almost showed that the steel one was actually 150 pounds heavier. Now that's a significant difference when you're hauling like I am on the four-wheeler, and that's 100 extra pounds, 150 extra pounds that I can have in load, if you will. Now, as far as load capacity, one, it's going to have roughly between 1548 and 2,000 pounds, kind of depending on the specs, but in generic, that's going to be your guidelines. So when it comes down to the hauling portion of this, here's a couple of things that I've just noticed is, one, when you're hauling it with the truck, you've got more of this pass-through, right, this design, and I think that's intentional. But when you have that metal mesh, again, those, even though it is expanded metal and air still gets through that, you do notice that. You notice that from like a sail perspective, like you have resistance. With this, you don't. And then in this case, you can fold it back down if you're hauling empty, and then it completely just goes away. So I think that's a huge positive. Again, now from a payload perspective regarding the four-wheeler, I definitely think this is just a lighter trailer. You notice it 100%, especially when you're going on angled surfaces. Now, what you saw me doing in the back here, that's, you know, most of that's flat, so that's not a big of a deal. But when I go to the land, I would consider it more of like gently rolling, if you will. And when I'm on one of those hills and I have to start from that perspective, having a lighter trailer really does matter. Now, one of the things you saw me doing earlier when I was pressing down on this gate is, yes, it lays down, but it does not lay flat. One of the things that I personally was really excited about the potential of is laying it flat so I could take longer boards. Now, for me, I do a lot of DIY, I do a lot of building, crafting, and so for me, the ability to haul lumber with this is going to be huge. A couple other features that I really just didn't talk about. One, up front, you've got a flat 4 as far as just your connection and lights. You've got the chains that come with it. Another thing that I thought was interesting with the steel, or that the 5x8, excuse me, earlier in it I know that I was saying 5x9, but it's 5x8. With that, you don't get a jack, right? So if you go and buy one of those, that's going to be about $75, anywhere between $75 to $100. So right there, that delta, that $300 and some difference, also now comes down to 200 and some because the jack actually comes with it, which I think is nice. Now, another thing is that I noticed it's dual pin, and with the way that it's set up in this kind of, in this U shape, you could grab it one hand and then twist, and you could put it in a position one-handed, really easy. Now, I will say this, a couple of things that I personally think are going to be interesting to see how it wears in the long term is going to be, one, the deck. First of all, the deck is so much more user-friendly. Go and look at the reviews on all the 5x8 steel trailers. Those things are riddled with complaints of the mesh starts to sag, and you know what? I'm one of those as well. When I had mine, that was one of the challenges I had, is that mesh is just one, it's not that strong, it started to sag. In fact, I ended up putting a Green Treat 4x8 piece of wood in there. I think two things too. If you want to haul anything, I would have to line it with a tarp and then put in gravel, whether it's road base or sand, whatever. Obviously that would go right through that. Now, for some of you, if you're using that steel mesh for like landscaping or something like that, well then it's perfect, because a lot of your stuff you want it to blow out within reason, and it kind of cleans off your trailer for you. But in my particular case, it was more of a deficit than it was a benefit. So in this particular case, I can haul a lot more without worrying about it falling through. Now, on the contrary, I will say that these panels, you can see that these are the steel panels, are nice because it allows for a more of an even consistency. Things aren't going to fall through. However, I still think you got to use it with caution, meaning if I'm going to be hauling rock, I am not going to be just tossing that in there. I will not. I'm kind of, the jury's out as far as long-term durability if you're going to be utilizing this pretty aggressive. So I would just say from a long-term perspective, use it with caution. Maybe even line it with something before if you're going to do it like that, or just be a little bit more ginger as you're putting stuff into it. Who is this trailer for? I would say that, one, when you look at the trailer and you look at the design of what we've been doing, this is for DIYers or weekend haulers for a variety of different reasons. Again, you could be hauling anywhere between 8 all the way up to roughly 12-foot lumber. You're going to have to try it on for your own. Sheet goods will work great in here. with a little bit of room on the side if you need to do some nominal lumber. I would say that this also could work really good for yard or property owners with that extra width, right, and that solid payload rating. I think for me that just makes it great also for lawn tractors. I think that's one of the primary designs on this. You've got that wider because that accommodates some of the newer lawnmowers that have those wider decks. This is now going to be fitting that, and ultimately I believe that that's more than likely what this one, even though it's a utility trailer, you could use it for everything. I think one of the primary designs on this was for landscape individuals. Now, for the budget conscious buyer, I would only say that the 5x8 is not a bad option, but honestly, so is this. Once you add in the jack to that and you add the additional functionality of the flip down, I personally think even though this was a little bit more expensive, I think this is absolutely and unequivocally worth the buy. All right, so here we're at the end of the video. I want to add this in, and I want to preface this by saying this, you guys. One, I do think this is a great trailer depending upon the use at which you're going to be buying it for. Now, for me, one of the primary caveats that I was getting this trailer for is the simple fact that, one, they even said that this thing lays flat against the deck, okay? Now, you might be saying, well, it is down there, but it's not flat. It's up at an angle. Now let me see if I can show you this, right? So there is this gap. This doesn't go all the way down. It's bouncy, right? It says in their advertisement that it lays flat to increase your payload, right? Meaning you can stack. So I had bought this knowing that I could lay that flat. I could put lumber over the top of it. Now I know that I said earlier we could flip it up, put it through. I know that I can do that, but I'd like to be able to do it a little bit more where I can stack it, and it does say that it lays flat. Now, and you look at the actual hinges here, right? When you look at these hinges, and if I go to push this down, two things occur. One, it's really hitting here, and if I put a lot of pressure onto this right here, it's going to add so much wear and tear to these hinges that it's just honestly not going to work. Now, I know that that front gate, the elevation from the deck once that's laying flat serves or should be the same as this if this were to lay flat. So what I'm hoping that one of you honestly will do is you'll say, hey, Joshua, here's the error you're making, or someone will know how to make this right, you know, because I want to be able to put wood on top of that if I'm doing a really larger order, roughly, right? Obviously, we only can do up to the payload that they've put in there, but it should be able to lay flat. And I believe that this should lay flat, even though it is not now. So for me, hauling wood in large stacks on top of this is just not going to be effective from that perspective. Now, let's just say that they were to come back and they were to say, nope, that's exactly how it's supposed to be. Yes, we put flat, even though it is at a little bit of an angle, and yeah, that's not going to lay flat for you to put wood on top of it. Would I still get this one versus the 8-foot? I do think that I would. I would. It's got the benefits. It's much lighter. It serves me better in almost all those other forms and fashions. And I think that the decking board on this is much better than the mesh. However, it's just a little bit of a disappointment if the back gate that's supposed to lay flat isn't laying flat, and then I really just can't use it, right? When you look at this front one, right, this one's solid. This one's down on top, that one's solid, right? It's not up at an angle. So Sterling, if you're watching this, please let me know. Guys, for those of you that want to follow this and you're like, hey, I actually am interested in knowing about that black gate, you could go to tractorsupply.com, look at the reviews underneath. I'm going to be posting a review tonight asking the question. There's been one review so far from one other individual, and they were using it just to haul a lawnmower. In that particular case, they would never have this problem. But for me, who's wanting to use it for more versatility than just for landscaping, I am going to be putting it in with pictures. You'll be able to check out their response and see what they actually say to it. But at the end of the day, guys, I do think it's a great trailer. And I think when you look at the price point difference between the metal mesh one and this particular one, I personally think it's worth it in a lot of different ways, especially if you're in the colder climates like all my family up in Minnesota, where you've got a lot of salt and you got to really worry about the rust. This thing will do the trick, and for sure. So Thanks for watching. Shoot dang. Have a great rest of your day. Hey, check out some of my other videos. And hey, if you've appreciated some of the information on this, yeah, it may not be totally pristine, if you will, as far as just how it was presented. But hey, I'm learning along with you guys. So consider leaving me a like. So go ahead and hit the like button. And then also, hey, consider subscribing if you like this style of content. So with that being said, shoot dang guys, have a great rest of your day.